So joining us now is Ricardo Maarman, all the way from South Africa. And some of you may have seen Ricardo's video that has been circulating online, and maybe we'll get an idea from him in a second, how many views it's gotten and what type of distribution he's seeing. But I saw his video and was very compelled to reach out, and was really touched by his words and comforted by the fight that he's putting up. So I am so grateful to him for joining me today. And Ricardo, welcome to the show. Thanks so much.
To say thank you to your audience for listening and looking at me. I really appreciate that, and I'm honored. So thank you very much.
It's my absolute pleasure. So let's start off and just get a little background from you. Tell me a little bit about your personal background and maybe what your qualifications are. Who the heck are you? Why are you the one taking up this fight? And then we'll get into how this current, I guess, legal battle started out.
Well, I think, you know, what qualifies me, obviously, I mean, I think all humans around the world should be qualified to take this up. You know, this is a contravention against all of us. As you mentioned, I am from South Africa. We have had a history here in this country of injustice, and especially injustice perpetrated by the government themselves. And so that was something that, you know, when something like this happens, your tentacles go up, because we are not as trustful of the government as people might be in America, and our fair share of quite corrupt and sellout governments, to be honest with you. I'm from South Africa, from a town called Graaff-Reinet. Now this is the same town that Professor Robert Sobukwe comes from. He was also a man he fought in the apartheid days to try and free the country from that kind of oppression. And so obviously I grew up in the shadow, and that inspires one as well to be vigilant and fight for freedom. I've subsequently myself, you know, I've educated in politics and international politics, in particular economics. I've got a degree in economics and politics, a master's degree in politics as well, international politics. And so that made me globally here. And so to put things in a better perspective of how the world works, how things fit together, how strange it is. How strange it is on the one side, but also how expected it is based on how the world is, that every single government in the world is doing exactly the same thing.
Yes.
Situation where I thought, no, something must be done. And of course, as someone who has, has studied these things a little bit more, I have an obligation and a duty that once I saw what was happening, I had to stand up, and fight for many of my own relatives. Some of them were still in Graaff-Reinet, and for people just generally in South Africa who I believe have suffered.
Hey, the video audio, it keeps kind of cutting out, so we'll be able to edit some of it out. But I just, if it gets bad, we might need to hit the pause button and restart. Not start all over, but restart the call, and we could pick up where we left off. But I think we're fine. But if it gets bad, maybe we'll hang up and connect again. So that's an interesting point you bring up about the history of apartheid in South Africa and the history of government oppression. So I'm curious, given the quasi-recent history of that phenomenon, do you find that you have a lot of support? Do you find that a lot of people look at the government with a skeptical eye like you seem to?
Look, it's a mixed bag in South Africa. There are a lot of people that are suspicious of the government here, and of brutality and injustice coming from government. A population of people who are what they call vaccine hesitant. So people who are just not interested in taking the vaccine. Government has thrown at them because of this history. So yes, on the one hand, there's a lot of people. On the other hand, there's a lot of people known how the naked violence of brutality of the past. You could lose your life, you could lose your freedom. There's a lot of these things that happen. So yes, in South Africa, people haven't been marching on the streets in their millions as you've seen in other places because of that fear of the naked brutality of the government. But the fact, if you see how they're not taking the vaccine, that is an indication of their distrust. That's their protest, that they are not vaccine because they don't trust what's going on. So yes, there's a bit of both. Yeah.
Speaking of, so what are the numbers like? Do you know what percentage of the population has been vaccinated?
To be honest with you, I try, like most people, not to look at the news too closely unless I have to, especially the mainstream. Misinformation, one does not know exactly where the figures are. But the last time I heard, I think it was about 5% or something like that of the population that were vaccinated.
Wow.
But the government is quite desperate. They're quite desperate. They've now got the cell phone service providers to just text people like crazy and say, you got to take the vaccine tomorrow. Yeah, it's for free and all of that kind of thing. But the people are very hesitant in South Africa. And that is one of the reasons why I think South Africa could be a very, in my view, is the epicenters along with the United States of this thing happening. One, obviously the importance of the United States, the size, etc. But South Africa is strategically, I think it's just a difficult place for the globalists to win, and we have a lot of things that we could break free from them in South Africa. And this is one of them. We've got a population here that has experienced this before. Many populations around the world hasn't experienced them a bit off guard. They can't believe it, that the government can do such a thing.
Right.
While here, people are a bit different, and the people are resilient, and that's why we've got this case in court. Our people are quiet. They don't always, fight at the first instance. We're strategic, but we are stubborn, and we fight hard when the time comes.
There's no better way to protest than by just simply refusing the vaccine. I like to see protests in Australia and certain European countries. It gives me comfort to know that people are standing up, but there is no better way, to protest than to just simply refuse the shot. So perhaps South Africa is at the forefront of this fight for that reason alone, and not to mention yourself. So I'm curious, I saw your video that seems to have gone somewhat viral. And a large part of your argument resonated for me because you spoke about the failure of scientists to isolate and purify the virus. So I'm really curious, given your background in politics, how did you educate yourself on the science, on virology, and how did you even stumble upon this argument?
Look, we in South Africa, I hate to point in this direction again, but it might, bring up a lot of controversy. But in South Africa, we had the whole HIV/AIDS issue that went on here, and much of the argument was very similar to the arguments current one that is going on, COVID-19. So I was not new to this kind of questioning and things. I did not participate in it then, but there was controversy around the HIV virus then. And I did not understand the particulars, but I understood there was a controversy. And so when I was now faced with this one, it was not to, new to my mindset. I understood there's an issue here, but now if I wanted to be involved here, I have to understand this issue around the virus properly. And I quickly came to the idea that the problem might be there. When I understood the problem is there, I went then to ask myself, is this virus like Dr. Lanka around the world saying, no, it's not? But the vast majority of people say, yes, it is, yes, it is. So it took me quite some time. I had to go and get advice, from people. I think he wouldn't mind if I thank him publicly like this, from people like Dr. Qureshi, from Canada, a very good chemist, a person like myself who has absolutely no background in chemistry. It took him a while, I must say. It was not easy for me to learn these things. But back and forth a few times, he made me understand the idea of isolation. And he made me understand how virologists are getting it wrong. And virologists are tempering into an area of chemistry, basically. And so I understood this. Every time I reached out to him, and he was, kind enough to explain it to me. And then I went away from him, and I read other documents, and the document other people, and they say the virus is there, it's maybe just from Wuhan or whatever. And then I had to go back to him and say, doctor, look, I know you explained it to me. I thought I understand it, but now people are, confusing me again. And then he would ask me, what did they show you? And I would say to him, well, they showed me this picture. And then he said, okay, bring the picture, send me the picture and show me the picture. Because that's a picture of monkey kidney cells and all kinds of mixtures I put in there. So systematically, it took a while, I must say. I don't know how long, particularly a few months maybe, where I just had to interact, intermittently with Dr. Qureshi to understand it. And then subsequently, I had, interactions with Professor Lanka, where we, had an opportunity to speak to him, and where he also explained these things quite clearly. And so, yeah, that's how I got an understanding of it. And then, of course, once you understand that they have not isolated this virus, meaning they have not proven this virus to exist. That's what isolation and purification mean. And so now, how are they justifying a pandemic and a lockdown? So that once I fully had a grasp of this whole virology and chemistry, which took a while, I understand now, goodness, we've got a big problem here. The scam is bigger than...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I said that we got a, once I understood that, I realized we have a big problem here. The scam is bigger than I thought, but its foundations is also much weaker than I thought.
Do you think that the powers that be, whoever they are, do you think they realize that the virus has not been isolated, or do you think that they're so entrenched in that world? For example, Anthony Fauci, does he think that the virus does exist and it has been isolated? Because as you know, they've sort of changed the definition of isolation over time. So they can say that we've isolated a virus, but all they have is this mixture of, as you described, monkey kidney cells and antibiotics and whatever else is in the mixture. But I guess my question again is, do you think that the powers that be believe that there is no virus, or that they have not isolated the virus?
Look, I think when I've now, Dr. Lanka puts it, explains it quite nicely here, but there's levels here of this hierarchy. The guys at the very top, the guys who are now really pulling the strings and calling the shots here. And maybe, who knows, maybe Fauci is one of them, or maybe he's also just being pulled, But the guys at the very top know it's a scam, and they know there's no virus, and is around the issue of isolation. I don't know if can you hear me? Could you hear me clearly there?
Yes, you cut out for a few seconds, but I caught 99% of it.
Okay. So I'll just continue then. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that the guys at the very top understand it, because in my effort now for, I don't know, maybe more than a year or so that I've been working on this issue, there has been attempts to derail what I'm doing. Whenever I had a big court case or something, there's something big happening to try and distract people's minds from it. I mean, now, you say the video that I released recently went viral. I mean, as I say, I've been at this for quite some time. So there has been quite an effort to try and not let the news come out. So that effort alone tells me the guys at the very top know what's going on. But the guys, the virologists themselves, I don't think many of them know. People who are in the labs, some politicians might not even know, because this issue is so convoluted, So that's how I think. I think the guys at the very top, I know they know. From them to derail and to muddy the waters. And I mean, these guys have got a list of different schemes that they are throwing at people to confuse them.
As you look back, as you look back at, past pandemics, if you look back at HIV and sort of the history of virology, did you find any instances where someone did in fact isolate a virus?
I mean,
could you start over? It cut out right when you started.
Yeah. No, when you asked the question, in my study of this, did I ever found B or something? No, never found this. In South Africa, with the HIV issue, it never gone so far. There were attempts to take it to court here in South Africa as well. But for technicalities at that stage, the court also, kicked it out. So the issue was never discussed there. And the gentleman that took it to court, the doctor that wanted to take the issue of isolating HIV in South Africa, had a car accident mysteriously and died, So with HIV, I know for a fact, no, that has never been isolated. Even the professor who came up with the PCR method, Mullins, he explains as well.
Kerry
this
Mullins,
is part of the issue. Exactly. This is part of the issue that he raises as well. So short answer, HIV, no. All of these other things, as far as I'm concerned, no virus has ever been isolated.
So as you look back at, let me back up. So this seems to be a playbook that has been repeated several times for whatever reason. What is different this time? Why do you think it has taken over the entire world and has us in a state of paralysis? What's different?
I think they've tried it a few times. We're traversing quite hectic waters here, but they've tried it a few times. And I think the latest time that they've done it was HIV/AIDS in South Africa, and they are successful. They did a great job here. So people who opposed it were just smashed aside with the propaganda. I mean, they defeated our president. Former President Mbeki was one who questioned, the whole HIV/AIDS thing, and they thoroughly just crushed him into the ground as far as propaganda and that sort of thing. And he was sitting president then.
Wow.
So I think they've done it a few times. I mean, there's been a few viruses that they have said exist. They had vaccination programs for it, and it was never isolated. And this goes back, way back, I mean, Dr. Lanka and them argue about measles. Some people bring up polio.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long time coming. I've done it many times. So why not this time, from a the political mix set up nicely. They got around the world, I think, because the only way you can have all the governments doing the same thing is that if you carefully massaged, picked men in the right places over time, And I think now you got the combination of the right people. You've done a few tests and it has worked. And so wham, you do this one because you think, no one is going to raise the issue that I'm raising now because no one raised it with the previous times,
How
you got away with it.
How extensively have you looked into the WHO and their role in this whole ordeal?
Yes, I have looked at it quite a bit. The WHO is obviously all over this. Adjusted the health regulations, international health regulations, to change definition of pandemic, etc. These treaties of the UN of the WHO go back way back. South Africa signed up in 1947. So the WHO for a long time, many people, I think even prominent politicians in the US, I forget names now at this stage, raised the issue of how the UN is really, the culprit of trying to do this global tyranny ago about this. And the World Health Organization is a specialized agency of the United Nations. And the World Health Organization has it's open season for corruption there, in terms of its funding structure, that it allows private, interest, and especially interest from the pharmaceutical industry to finance it. And not only to finance it, but to finance it significantly. And not only to finance it significantly, but to earmark the finance and to say, I'm giving money for malaria, I'm giving money for vaccines. And then that's what the World Health Organization focuses on. And all countries are giving up their public health sovereignty over the years as well. So yes, I've looked into it quite a bit, yeah.
So a lot of people kind of on our side of the argument will say that it's all about money, it's all about the pharmaceutical companies making money from the vaccines. But you also hear a lot of people say that it's much more nefarious even than that. What do you think? Have you formulated an opinion on the motivations of whoever is behind this?
We are targeting the South African Central Bank as well, the South African Reserve Bank. I would say, look, I don't think necessarily, I think power is more a motive here than money. Because look who's involved, the central bankers have all the money in the world already, they already control all the money in the world. The pharmaceuticals that are involved here, they're already vaccinating people and children all over the world. And they're making a lot of money out of that, incidents of cancer. And they are then medicating. Everybody's making money out of this thing, but I think, and they've always made money. So I don't think money is the main motive. They already own us, right, and they own the world. They own all the money. About power and control. And I mean, there's a lot of indication here, that there's also about treating us like animals, basically, and culling the human population. Because at the same time that you have this craziness going on, you have the whole idea the world is too full and the resources are too little on the other side as well. So my opinion, because these people are the richest, the people who are behind this and the entities who are behind this, they're already the richest in the world. Right. And already own everything. So, and the amount of money they're going to make out of this is not doubling or anything like that. It's just a little bit more. And even with power, they're getting a little bit more power, but I think it's just greediness and total domination of the human race. And maybe much worse than that.
Yeah, scary thought. So I wonder if you could sort of walk us through the sequence of events since you took up this fight. What hurdles have you faced and where are we now?
So initially, what we done, was in 2020, the 27th of April, which was, ironically, Freedom Day in South Africa. But April 2020, that's when I did my first public access to information request to the president. You know, I'm sure you. And so here I asked the president, please provide, you know, all the information that informed you to lock the country down, because I don't believe that this is a clear and present disaster. This is an inferred disaster. So give us, you know, the information that you used to make this inference. I was ignored then. I asked a few questions. I think I asked about, you know, Bill Gates, for an example, and the World Health Organization. This was in 2020, between April and May. I asked the question, I asked the president, Mr. President, I heard Bill Gates through PIA application, through public access to information. You met with Bill Gates, he says you met with him. I asked the president, why are you meeting with him? Who is Bill Gates? Why are you discussing our national security with him? You know, is he representing the United States? Is he representing the World Health Organization? Why? What's going on? Can you please release that information to us? Did you vet him? Did you make sure that he's not a risk to our national security and all of that? I got, this is out of, I think I wrote about 4 or 5 letters to the president to ask these questions. This range of questions, I got the best answers, you know, from him. And the answers was, yes, I met with Bill Gates, but I only met with Bill Gates telephonically. We did not meet in person. We had a teleconference. And Bill Gates came as head of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, nothing else. So they wanted to make sure they make these things clear.
Right.
And we only got from Bill Gates said he was going to help us with research and testing kits. And that's it. That's what I got from, and I asked the president, and why are you following the World Health Organization if the World Health Organization is now running our country and you are reporting? I asked, where does it fit into our constitutional structure? Where does the World Health Organization authority come in? Now I understand where it comes in. I understand the kind of treaties they signed to sell our country off. But his answer was, we are a member. The answer I got to all that question is we are a member of the World Health Organization. From these questions, I then progressed to court. So I went first to the highest court, to the Constitutional Court, on the 26th of February, 2021. Compel the government to show us the virus. That was 26th of February, 2021. The court directly. I first have to start with the lower courts. So then I went to the lower court, which is the High Court in Cape Town on the 1. And I said to the court, please compel the government to show us the virus that they claim. And in that hearing, the court heard the case. The government came, the president's lawyers, and they said, no, we don't want. Gave a whole list of reasons why they don't want to. And the court said, well, I applied on an urgent basis. So the court said, the matter is not urgent, so the government does not have to show you anything. So if you want to see the virus, you got to go to another court, case closed. But what that has given us, it gave us confirmation that the president declared a pandemic, proof of the virus, because he just admitted so in court, and the judge just confirmed such. And our constitution says that you cannot take people's Bill of Rights in South Africa without having reasonable justification and without providing such reasonable justification to the public. You have to do that. He didn't do that. The court case proved it, plus a ton of other evidence. So now on the 27th of September, 2021, which is a week or 2 ago, we now again have submitted a case to the Constitutional Court, the highest court in the country. And in fact, normally the turnaround time is about 10 days for the court to come back and make a decision on the issue. They're still out. It's more than 10 days now, and they're still out, I think, deliberating. Normally, we have 5 of the judges looking at these things, and they usually come back within 10 days. They're still out deliberating. So I think every day that they're out there beyond the time allotted, I think it's in our favor. Might be a big decision for everybody.
So are they deliberating the final decision, or are they deliberating whether or not to hear your case?
Look, it could be a bit of both. Like, look, we've applied for them. We asked, the question we ask is, hear our case directly for 2 reasons. One, what we call here again, direct access. So that means, court, you gotta allow us to skip all the other courts and come straight to you, because this is a matter of national interest. The issues that are being discussed here, we have been to other courts and they, gave us this trouble. And in fact, the last court we've been to said this is a matter of national interest. And therefore, you see how the court dismissed it on the 27th of May, but the judge, I don't know, she did us a favor there. I don't think she meant to. But when she dismissed the case, the government lawyers came and they said they want to pay for cost. I must pay cost for their lawyers, And so the judge said to them, no, this is a matter of public interest. How can you want Mr. Maarman to pay cost? And so she dismissed their cost claim that they are making or wanted to make against me. And her grounds for dismissing that was, this is a matter of public interest. And the grounds for getting into the Constitutional Court is, one of it is that it must be a matter of High Court has just said it's a matter of public interest. So, and so anyways, what they are deliberating, in a short answer to you, is they are deliberating to give us access or not. But our Constitutional Court has that free range where they could say, look, we're giving you access, but we've given them the merits of the case. So they can make a ruling on those merits, or they can ask clarification from us, or they can ask the respondents to give their view and make a ruling. The court has quite free range on this issue.
Now, I'm curious, have you had to become an expert on constitutional law, or is it more based on common sense and intuition? Because these are very logical, intuitive arguments that you're making. And, on one hand, I can see how one wouldn't really need to be an expert on constitutional law, but I also assume there are certain protocol that you have to follow and certain legal knowledge that would be helpful.
Unfortunately, I was, forced to study, the Constitution a little bit closer. But normally, constitutional law is a little bit easier, it's a little bit simpler. Constitutions are usually more condensed than other, forms of law.
Right.
So that, but you see, the thing that helped is obviously we have quite a good legal team, of different people that looked at this. But also my background in politics, you see, there's quite a connection between politics and law. And once you understand the kind of form of government that South Africa was supposed to have, and then if you understand the form of government, then and in a republic democracy, if the government makes a decision, it has to justify it, etc. And then you just have to confirm with the lawyers if that law is there really. But because of if you understand the structure of government, and as you say, once you understand the structure, you understand the logic and how it's supposed to operate. And then, of course, there would be equivalent laws for that kind of operation. And you have to check those laws, confirm if they are there, and what do they say, the exact wording, and then, take it from there. But it's that combination. It's a political issue that happened, and we just have to see, does the law fit the structure that the politics pretends to be?
Sounds like you have a good team, a team of good legal experts, and then yourself with a background in politics. So hopefully it's a perfect storm, perfect team for this battle. In terms of expert testimony, have you secured scientists, virologists, anyone that is willing to testify to support your contention?
Yes, indeed. We had quite a few, obviously. In terms of experts, we have Dr. Resnick from the US. So we had quite a lot of help from the United States. So Dr. Resnick from the US, he's an expert in these things. He's a friend and a colleague, a former friend and colleague of Kerry Muller's. So he could bring Kerry Muller's to life, his testimony, about PCR and the isolation. We have Dr. Qureshi from Canada giving us, testimony on isolation, that it is a chemical process and what does it mean in a chemical process. And when virologists speak of isolation, they don't speak of the same thing logically, and how it does not make logical sense. So he gives, this is all sworn testimony. And then obviously Christine Messi, she also from Canada, and she did tremendous work. She did public access to information request to more than 100 laboratories around the world, health laboratories, asking them, do you of SARS-CoV-2? And they all said, no, they don't have testimony that she's done this work. And we have, all this, the work that she's done as well, that we've given to the court as evidence. We have from the UK, who gave us evidence.
Was that again? I'm sorry, you cut out there. Who was that?
Dr. Kevin Corbett from the UK, from the United Kingdom. He gave us testimony that, a lot of testimony, but the key part of his testimony that was important, that the SARS-CoV-2, the sequence they use, the genetic sequence that they use, intergenerated sequence. Okay, so it's not a sequence that is derived from an actual purified sample of SARS-CoV-2. Again, sworn testimony. And then other evidence that we have is Dr. Lanka was involved in a legal battle in Germany.
I've heard about this.
Happened there about the purification of the measles virus, which he won. His contention was the measles virus doesn't exist. The other party, it exists. And this other party brought the same evidence they normally bring, monkey kidney cells and all these things.
Right.
And the judge agreed with Dr. Lanka that how do you distinguish? If you mix something with monkey kidney cells, how do you discount the monkey kidney cells in whatever result you want to get from that? And so now that is a case, it's ruled. And as far as my knowledge is, that case hasn't been overturned or anything in Germany. The Stuttgart High Court. According to our constitutional law in South Africa, when it comes to matters of human rights, which this is, then international law and foreign law must be considered. And this is a case that stands. And then, of course, a case that comes as well that we use is the Portuguese case, where the Portuguese court also ruled that the PCR test is unreliable. So this is some of our scientific evidence, but we have more evidence than this, but I think it's quite a strong case that we have built as far as the evidence is concerned.
Well, it sounds like it. And speaking of the PCR test, I can imagine you could get hundreds of virologists or immunologists to testify that 45 cycles on a PCR test is completely asinine. Am I right in assuming that?
Yes, exactly. That's what they say, that if once you go, which most people have used at 45. So what we've tried to do here in putting together our evidence is, one, we wanted to make sure, one, it is all evidence relating to whether the virus can be proven to exist or not.
Right.
And that's, where we look at the PCR from. And we wanted to make sure that evidence that are not going to be a tit for tat. So like I say to you here, the experts that the respondents bring to this must be sworn experts. So they must swear that they are telling the truth. And if they are proven to be liars, they are willing to face the consequences. their careers and all of that kind of thing. And secondly, we have issues that are proven fact. A German court ruled that to say you've isolated the virus using this method does not work. And so that is case law for all legal systems around the world. And if you want to overturn that, we need another case. Portuguese case, the same thing. So we've tried to, yes, there's a lot of evidence out there, but we want to make sure we use evidence or that we have used evidence that are highly reliable and beyond contention.
Understood. Now, I'm curious quickly about the Koch's postulates. I'm no expert, but from what I understand is Koch's postulates was sort of an agreed upon methodology to use when isolating the cause of an illness, specifically viruses or bacterial infection. And I want to say it was 1972. There was a big meeting, I want to say in Paris. I could be way off about both of those, but in the not too distant past, if I'm not mistaken, it was agreed upon that Koch's postulates would be adopted and adhered to for identifying a causative agent. First of all, do you know if I'm correct? And then secondly, if I am, at what point did virology abandon Koch's postulates?
I cannot speak on the particular and the agreements and that sort of thing, and where virology diverted from that. You see, the thing is, what we've specifically tried to do here is, because the judges are similar to us, that these are, when it comes to this issue, they're lay people like
civilians, us, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the issue what we wanted to bring is to bring it out of the paradigm of technical science and all of that thing. The only, whoever the scientist is, can he say and can he logically prove that whatever method and thing he is using, that he can say that this proves here is a virus without a doubt, reliable proof. So whatever you call it, whatever it is, make it simple, make it clear, make it reliable. So our issue is that we are putting to the court is that this method that the virologists say they are using, this method is unreliable. A court has said it is unreliable. Why is it unreliable? It is unreliable for the fact that if you take a supposed virus out of someone's body, we can't even say that is a virus. So if you take a nasal swab or whatever, and you mix it with monkey kidney cells, and you put whatever other chemicals and things there with it, and you don't have a pure isolated sample somewhere as a standard to check anything of what you are doing, how can we reliably say what is in there? How can anybody reliably say whether there is a virus or not? That's it. And so that's the argument we are making to the court. We're backing that up, as I say, the German case said it, etc. So we are putting it in a simple language to the judges, experts that are just as qualified as whatever qualified. And we are saying to the judges, if we can explain to you simply that this is not reliable, and if it was reliable, it should have been like this. And so now they have to explain to you. And then you see now the problem is here is that the trickery that these guys hide behind is technicalities and things like that, whatever. And we are saying this is a court of law. And in a court of law, the judges should ask, is it reliable or is it not reliable? Is it credible or not?
They should not let them get away with the scientific jargon. Yeah.
Exactly. And we make the point up front that, because this is another trick they're trying to play here, and I understand that from a political point of view, that they're trying to make this kind of discussion something that should only be done between scientists. No. In a republic and in a Republican democracy, it doesn't work that way. If you are an expert, it doesn't mean you're operating in your own world. It means that you know something very well, but if you must be able to explain it to the rest of us, if that thing is going to impact our lives, we're not going to just simply defer to science. And we are saying to the court in our papers, court, the president needs to explain himself to us, because this is a democracy, a republic. And the scientists need to explain themselves as well. And they both have to be logical, reasonable, and reliable. They cannot come to court and say, I've got 20 million years experience in virology and I know how to, okay, and now explain your logics. Because you got so much experience, you should be more logical and more simple and clearer. And if you can't, you can't. And here this issue is, did the president, or is there reliable proof of the virus? And if there is a reliable proof of the virus, then we can move on to the next question. Is there a reliable link between the virus and the disease? Is there a reliable link between the disease and the deaths and the chaos or not? And then if these questions can be reliably answered, then you have justification for doing what they have done. But if you cannot reliably answer the first question, then you have a problem. You have no justification. You shouldn't have done what you have done. And the thing is, you cannot say, because many people are leaning to the argument, but look, they said it was in China. You know, the president had to do something. No. He had to act reasonably. He had to say, send somebody to China and ask for a purified sample and do all these things that I've told you. Make sure it's deadly. Make sure it causes the disease. And then you come to the public, you show the public this information and Parliament, you let there be a debate and a vote, and then you do what you do. But you can't just act like this. You cannot take people's God-given rights away willy-nilly for guesses and possible threats and that sort of thing. You can't do that. And that's what we want to convince the court here. And I think it makes sense, you know.
It's perfectly logical. The thing I worry about, and I assume you worry about as well, is the idea that every politician, every world leader, for the most part, just fell in line, and none of them did what you're suggesting your president should have done. So I imagine that's going to be part of their argument. You know, I'm one of hundreds of countries around the world. No one did what you're suggesting. You're crazy. I don't know. I imagine that's going to be part of the argument that you're going to hear.
Yes, you're going to hear that argument. I mean, they've been setting it up all along as their plausible deniability, but it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It shouldn't work. In a proper world, it shouldn't work. If you go for a home loan or at a bank, what are they going to do? They're going to do checks and all of that kind of stuff before you get the loan. They're not going to give you the loan first and then do do the stuff, you know.
Government seems to be the one organization where, simple, basic principles like that don't apply.
It seems, but we need to, I mean, part of the fight that we have here is we have to bring it back to those basic principles of truth, you know, because if you try to make this thing complicated, you are not going to arrive at truth. And the truth is not complicated. You know, the truth is easy and it's simple. And the same thing applies here, that what we are saying to the court in South Africa, you know, we try to make it simple. We're saying, and I think this applies to all over the world. And that's why I think this judgment or whatever the decision a court makes in South Africa is very important. Because if our court makes a decision in our favor, it will be hard for your governments and any government in the world to be able to withstand that.
Maybe the dominoes will start to fall. Yeah.
I think so. Because the issue is simple here. We are saying to the government, the president should have obtained reliable proof of this virus existence, of its deadliness, and before he did anything. And part of what he should have done, so firstly, that is it. Yes, we add to that, he should have consulted Parliament, he should have consulted the people, etc., before he made the decision. But simple is, he should have confirmed there is a virus, it is deadly, and all of that before he acted. You cannot do it the other way around. End of the story. And if he did do that, he did right. If he didn't do that, he did wrong. Simple as that. And if he did wrong, he has to face the consequences. And so the issue, it's very simple. It's going to be very, very tough, I think, for this decision to end up other than what it should, which means he has no justification. And they should face then after that the consequences of the action. And I think the whole world can then, follow suit. Especially, I think it could even be done better in many countries, because I'm sure, when people look at what we are doing here, they will find ways to improve on it. But I think, as you say, all the presidents around the world have done the same thing. Why? Because, as I said, for many years, these people who are manipulating the situation, they've created uniformity. They've created the similarity around the world, a similarity of politicians, of systems, legal systems, parliaments, structures like that. And so said, the problem is, if we manage to win it in South Africa, based on what I'm explaining to you, it applies everywhere. It applies everywhere, because they have created the uniformity. They've created that uniformity to destroy us.
And I love that you're going at the very foundation of the whole argument. And as you mentioned, there are so many angles you could take. You could get into the weeds with PCR and lockdowns and masks, and there are a million different aspects of this whole ordeal that you could get lost in. But it sounds to me like you're trying to ignore all the noise, and you're trying to stick to that foundational principle of, did you isolate the virus and prove that it causes illness? And the good news is, if you win that argument, you're right. That is the foundation of the entire miserable ordeal that we're all going through. So if you win this case, huge ramifications for freedom.
100%. And as well, you see, the thing is as well is that these are heads of state. So in South Africa, we are saying this is the head of state. Every decision he takes in South Africa affects 60 million South African people. 60 million. And in this instance, you have taken basic rights away from them. You can, unless you have irrefutable, reliable, completely credible proof before you act. Not only do these people, not only do our president not have these things that I've just told you, he doesn't have such reliable proof. There is in none of his behavior or actions do we see any attempt to have obtained such before he acted. And it's clear as daylight, And I think, that's the problem that you have here, that it's not, like I say to you, in the example of the home loan, that bank clerk or person that you've dealt with, or the bank manager that gives you the loan, they had to go through, make sure everything is right before they give you the loan. And they had to do that before the time. And they do that maybe 1,000 applications a month, okay? Here is the president of a country. The decision that he takes, he says it himself, never happened before in the history of humanity. This is a huge decision. So the level of making sure that you are doing the right thing beforehand goes up. And so he should be held to a higher level of
accountability, 100%.
Yes.
Just a couple of last questions before I let you go. Do you worry at all about corruption in the judicial branch, in the high court? Or do you have faith that they'll do the right thing?
I do have faith, sitting from this position, I do have faith. I think our judiciary is, that's why I put the case in front of them. I think it would be unfair to judge them before they have made a decision. We should put it to them, and we should give them opportunity to make a decision. I have a lot of confidence that they will come back here with a decision for humanity. And I think part of the reason why they are taking a bit of time like this is because they understand it. Yes, of course, there are, people are concerned about this thing, about, all these governments seem corrupt. Maybe the judiciary is as well. It's easy to slip into that. But I think people should try not to. Let us give them a chance. Let us attempt this. Let us have, we are up against people who have that human beings are just a corrupt species that needs to be gotten rid of. We mustn't have that same feeling, okay? We must have hope that people are open to truth and people are open to justice. And it starts with these judges. We must have faith in them. If we think these judges are just corrupt, everything is just corrupt, then we have also bought into the idea that we humans should be culled and be gotten rid of because we are beyond faith and hope. So yes, I have faith and hope until it's done.
Well, with that, I think that's a perfect way to end this conversation. That was beautifully put. I would like to know how people can help you. Is there any way that our listeners and anyone else that happens upon this interview can help the cause?
100%. There's thank you very much for asking. The one is, please spread the message around, and please, yourself, familiarize yourself with the case and look at closely what we're doing in South Africa. And look to do the same in the US. You look to do the same in the US and look to encourage it everywhere. So that's the first thing. And then obviously go to our website. We have a website, www.showusthevirus.info, showusthevirus.info, where you can, get some more information, share some information with us. And then lastly, of course, please donate to our cause. There is a big exchange rate difference between South Africa and the US. So a little bit from you can go a long way to help us to fight the cause in South Africa. And lastly, keep the faith and let us all, pray to God to give us success and victory over this evil.
Well, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much I personally appreciate the fight that you're putting up, and no pressure, but people around the world are counting on you here. So best of luck, and we'll be praying for you in your good fight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure and an honor speaking to you.